Gary's text pinged at 11:11. An invitation, too polite to feel innocent. My best friend's father, the man I'd spent years trying not to notice, wanted me alone in his apartment. When the door shut behind me, he did something I never saw coming, and it wasn't what you think. Tonight. Gary's apartment felt like a harbor against December, warm in ways winter rarely is. Plants leaned toward steam hissing from radiators. A record whispered on a turntable. When he opened the door, his smile met me first, then my name, Liam, released like a breath neither of us acknowledged there. "Thanks for coming," he said, stepping aside. I was 22, heartbeat quick and clumsy. Gary was 44, composed like a good sentence. "I could use help with a shelf," he added. "Stay for dinner?" The door clicked closed behind me, and the city dimmed, as if his apartment changed gravity. I knew him first as my best friend's father, the man who packed coolers, fixed flats, and asked questions that made your answers feel important. Somewhere between barbecues and college, I learned how to drink coffee black and how to hide a crush. Some lessons stayed longer than they should have. Inside, rosemary and garlic softened the air. Coltrane traced blue notes that circled the room, like birds deciding where to land. He watched me kick off my boots, a look precise as measurement, generous as light. "You look tired," he said. The concern felt steady, not performative, unexpectedly difficult today. "The shelf's in the study," he said. We walked a narrow hall, shoulder brushing shoulder. The shelf waited half-built. Beside it sat a dusty cardboard box labeled with my name in his handwriting. "He asked me to pass this along," Gary said. He meant my friend, gone 3 states away. He watched the way I swallowed, then surprised me with mercy. "I didn't ask you here for a shelf," he said. "I wanted to tell the truth first." He sat on the carpet, inviting me to mirror him. "I keep seeing you shrink, Liam. Someone did that to me once. No one had named the ache so cleanly before. I felt the old instinct to joke and run, then sat instead. The box breathed dust when I opened it. Ticket stubs, a bent Polaroid, an essay about bridges. At the bottom lay an envelope addressed to me, in my handwriting. I slid out a letter I didn't remember writing. 19-year-old ink aching toward the man I hadn't dared name. Gary returned with tea and saw the page. Shiver. "I won't read it unless you ask," he said. The restraint unclasped something private inside me. Tears arrived without apology, just warmth. He set one mug by my knee and reached only for my hand. His thumb rested over the bead inside my wrist, a touch careful as a boundary and as kind as summer. "I won't take advantage," Gary said, softly. "But I won't pretend I don't see you, not anymore." Language deserted me. I squeezed back, feeling seen and singed at once. The record spun its patient circles. Outside, sirens blurred like rain. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered. Gary's smile reached his eyes, then retreated, care without claim. "We can start with tea and truth. Tonight." He nodded, then glanced toward a small locked drawer beneath the window. "There's one more reason I invited you." He retrieved a thick, red-sealed envelope, weighing it in his palm like it could tip the room. "It's from him," Gary said. "My friend." The paper looked heavier than paper suddenly. My throat tightened, pulse leaping against his thumb. The envelope waited between us like a door left barely ajar, breathing a faint draft of possibility. "Now or after we eat?" he asked. I met his gaze, braver than I felt. "Now," I said, though hunger lived everywhere else but tonight. The wax seal broke with a soft sigh, and suddenly the room belonged to Evan's voice. Each line narrowed the space between Gary and me, permission folded beside warnings, a key skittering into my palm like a dare. Love wasn't our only secret tonight. Truth had instructions, and consequences for us. I ease the red wax with my thumbnail until it gives a soft surrender. The envelope breathes. A single page, two folded, slides into my hand. The paper smells faintly like cedar and laundry soap. Gary's knee is near mine on the carpet, his presence calm as a lighthouse. It starts with my name. Liam, if you're reading this, Dad kept his promise. I asked him to. I'm writing before I leave because the last few months with you were loud with things we didn't say, and distance can make cowards of us unless we put our courage down. Gary doesn't look over as I read, but he hears every shift in my breathing. I know because he matches it, quiet solidarity. I keep going. I'm not great at feeling speeches, but I noticed your eyes kept landing where they shouldn't. Maybe it isn't about me. Maybe it's about someone who drinks coffee slowly and fixes things. If I'm right, I'm not mad. I trust him. I trust you. Please don't turn love into hiding. There's a key in this envelope. It's to Dad's place. He'll give it to you if you'll take it. Check on him when I'm gone, and make him eat something green sometimes. If this is all wrong, burn this. And roast me at my wedding, which you're obligated to attend. Also, don't lie to me, not to protect me. Call me first if anything happens. I love you, idiot. Evan. A small brass key slips onto the carpet, catching a sliver of winter light like it's been rehearsing for this. I pick it up. Gary's face doesn't move much, but his shoulders fall a fraction, relief and worry arriving as a pair. He nods as if Evan is in the room. I didn't read it, he says, hands folded like he's steadying a prayer. He told me to wait. I believe him. I believe them. That isn't how my life usually works. Trust has been a thin currency I spend too quickly. I close my eyes and let the letter settle in my lap. The room hums with radiator heat and something truer, a boundary that is actually an invitation. He's right, I say. My voice sounds newer in my mouth. About the not hiding, about calling. I hold up the key. About this? The question hovers like breath on glass. Gary meets it carefully. I wanted to give you one, he says, smiling, like a man who finally lets himself want something small, even before I knew what I knew. Because you already take care of the people you love. Because you take care of this place when you're in it, like it notices you. I laugh, short and disbelieving. It sounds like a relief valve. I don't know what we're doing, I admit. I don't want to hurt him, or you, or me. Then we won't, Gary says. We'll be honest and boringly careful, and we'll eat dinner. If we ever become something, it will happen in the daylight, with Evan rolling his eyes on speakerphone. The smile in his words steadies me. The promise does more. It threads the air with mercy. He stands to stir the sauce. I follow because it feels like the most honest thing. We move easily in the kitchen, a choreography learned by accident. I reach, he hands, we don't crowd. He brushes my shoulder once and apologizes. I tell him not to. The apology stays anyway. My phone buzzes. On the table, Evan's name bright as noon. Gary meets my eyes. Ready? He asks. I answer, yes. The ringtone sliced the room just as the sauce began to simmer, Evan's name bright as a dare. My mouth went dry, the brass key warm in my pocket. Gary's hand hovered near mine, not touching. Choices clustered like birds on a wire, ready to fly or flee or fall now. We put Evan on speaker. Gary turned down the stove and leaned against the counter, his arms loosely crossed, like he was practicing not to fret. Tell me he fed you, Evan said, voice grainy, airport loud behind him. There was laughter in it, and something older, a steadiness I knew well. Feeding in progress, Gary said. Hi, kid. Hi, old man. A pause. Liam? I'm here. My throat felt like a bridge between two cities. Needed, trembling, somehow holding. I read it. Good, Evan said softly. I didn't want you to guess. I wanted us all to choose. The record clicked off when the power saving switched, and for a heartbeat, the apartment felt so quiet I could hear the radiator thinking. Gary reached for my elbow, a touch that asked, not assumed. I stayed where I was. So, Evan continued, sigh audible through some bad terminal acoustics. Rules? You know I wasn't going to let you two freestyle this. Gary smiled at me, eyes crinkling. We are listening. 1. No secrets, Evan said. Not from me, not from each other. If you're thinking of doing something big, I hear about it before, not after. 2. Daylight only for now. No. Drama after midnight. 3. If either of you feels weird, say yellow light and stop. Yellow light, I repeated, surprised at how much relief those two simple words could carry. 4, Evan added. Liam finishes his degree. Dad, you go to your cardiology follow-up you keep forgetting because humility is your favorite hobby. 5. You make each other eat leafy greens. This is non-negotiable. Gary groaned. Tyranny. Healthy tyranny, Evan countered. He lowered his voice. Look, if it's nothing, fine. If it's something, I want you both happy. But I need to trust that you won't disappear me from the room. I pressed my palm flat to the counter to keep it from shaking. You won't be disappeared, I said. Not by me. Gary's gaze flicked to mine, proud and private. Not by me either. Okay, Evan said, exhaling a laugh that broke into tenderness. Also, I met someone. Not a big deal. He's nice. We're talking. His name's Armin. So don't martyr yourselves on my behalf, all right? I'm not 12. Something unclenched in my chest I didn't know I'd been holding. Permission didn't feel like a free pass. It felt like a hand on my back, steadying. Boarding, Evan said abruptly. Text me after dinner. And Dad? Yeah, I love you. Try not to overthink yourself into a corner. Working on it, Gary said, and the way his voice gentled made me want to stand closer. The line clicked and was empty. We stood in the kitchen, the sauce fragrant with basil and thyme, phone face down between us like a placid coin after a difficult toss. We ate at the little table by the window, knees almost touching. We tried to talk about ordinary things, the shelf, the weather, a stray cat that had started treating the stoop like a stage, but ordinary kept wobbling and tipping toward honesty. Someone taught you to disappear, Gary said eventually, revisiting what he'd said in the study. If you want to tell me, I'm here. If you don't, I'm still here. The lights flickered once, twice, then the entire apartment sighed into darkness. The record gave up with a soft, rubbery shush. Outside, the city dimmed in wide, uncanny strokes. We sat still while the heater slowed. Stay, Gary said quietly, already moving for the drawer where he keeps the emergency candles. Flame stitched itself into the room, softening the corners. He handed me one, the tiny circle of heat like a secret cupped in our palms. I had a boyfriend who measured everything, I said into the hush. What I wore, what I said. He made jokes about how loud I laughed. I kept shrinking to fit the quiet he preferred. When it ended, I wasn't sure where the edges of me were anymore. Gary's face moved in the candlelight, grief and fury passing through like weather. I'm sorry, he said. Then, carefully, you are not a room for anyone else's furniture, I breathed, and something unclenched further. We sat side by side on the floor, backs against the couch, the candle between us like a small moon. The dark wasn't empty. It had texture, alive with radiator ticks and the faraway sound of someone debating with a dog down the hall. His shoulder brushed mine. He didn't apologize this time. I didn't either. Our hands found each other in the slowest way possible, fingers lifting, almost, then resting. Yellow light, I thought. Yellow light can be safe. The power roared back to life, with a sudden, startled brightness. The oven beeped. We blinked at each other like we'd been caught by daylight at the end of a dream. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan blinked on the lock screen. Might be coming home this weekend. Long story. Call you later. Gary read the words upside down, then looked at me. Suspense, it seemed, wasn't done with us. At 12:03, someone knocked. 3 quick taps, undeciding. Every rule Evan made stood up fast inside me. Daylight only. No secrets. Yellow light. He'd said weekend. The city said now. My key warmed my pocket. Gary's eyes found mine. I couldn't tell which would break first. Plan, courage, or quiet. Tonight. The knock came again, softer, like the visitor was arguing with the door. Gary lifted a hand, stay, and opened it. Evan stood there with a duffel, snow dusting his curls. Don't kill me. Storm rerouted me. Early standby. Phone died. Hi, I managed. Relief and panic collided. Gary pulled him into a hug that made him vanish and reappear, the way families can. You could have been a text, Gary said into his hair. Blame LaGuardia and my life choices, Evan mumbled, stepping inside. His gaze flicked over the candle, the dishes, the key on the counter. He nodded at the brass. Good. You kept it. The apartment regained its edges. The rules we'd agreed to, no secrets, daylight, yellow light, arranged themselves in the room. Midnight had its own gravity. Evan yawned it back toward ordinary. I'm wrecked, he announced. Also hungry. Gary reheated sauce and boiled pasta with brisk care. Evan leaned against the counter beside me, shoulder bump gentle. I meant what I wrote, he said, and what I said. If it's real, I want it to work. I don't need to watch it become real. We didn't, I started, then chose honesty. We held hands when the lights were out. We talked. That's it. Cute, he said, half smiling. Daylight's not just about, it's about clarity. We ate late like college students. Outside, snow made even sirens polite. Exhaustion softened everything. Long story? Gary prompted. Short version, Evan said, scrubbing his face. Armand might get an offer here. I wanted to surprise you this weekend with a plan that wasn't chaotic. He gestured at his boots. Chaos won. You're safe, Gary said. The way he said it made my throat sting. Evan squeezed his father's wrist. You too. His eyes cut to me. And you. Safe includes honest. I know, I said. The truth felt like an open window that didn't make the room colder. By 1, the apartment yawned. Evan claimed the couch with an old quilt and the kind of sigh that collapses a day. Gary offered me the study. I nodded. Our good nights were careful, like setting fragile things on a shelf a safe distance apart. Sleep didn't love me back. I gave up and padded to the kitchen. Gary stood there, the kettle beginning to whisper, robe a deeper shadow. Insomnia, buddies, he said, smiling. Like a confession. You okay? I asked. Mostly. He tapped his chest. It's been loud in here lately, which doesn't help me keep appointments I don't want. He met my eyes. I'll go. Tomorrow. Come with me? I want to, I said. He poured chamomile and slid a mug toward me like an agreement. We stood in the kitchen light, 2 careful silhouettes. The urge to step closer was edged and bright. Yellow light, I thought, and wrapped my hands around the cup until wanting turned into warmth. Evan patted. Hair chaotic. I said no midnight drama. He mumbled, voice sleep rough. Tea doesn't count. He kissed his father's temple, then tapped my shoulder, quick as a brother. Tomorrow is better for everything else. When he drifted away again, Gary exhaled a laugh. Saved by the tyrant. Healthy tyranny, I said, and we both smiled like we'd finally learned the joke. We parted properly. In the study, moonlight braided through plants. I set the brass key on the windowsill and watched it gather silver. The rules held. Morning waited like an exam we'd studied for. Not sure we'd pass, but determined to show up. I slept, finally, inside that promise. By noon, daylight turned everything we'd promised into a test. The waiting room smelled like lemon cleaner and nerves. Evan squeezed my shoulder. Gary cracked jokes for the nurse, then went quiet when EKG paper spooled like a telegram from the body. "Yellow light," I whispered, to both of us, softly. Morning wore its good intentions right on its sleeve. The three of us ate toast by the window, snow glare bright enough to make our coffee look theatrical. Evan yawned into his mug and announced, "I'm a responsible adult now. I will attend the doctor and behave." Gary arched a brow. Miracles. I slid the brass key into my pocket where it had slept all night on the sill, cold at first, then warm like an idea you decide to keep. Daylight had rules. We were going to try to be grateful for them, not resent them. The clinic lobby was heat, plastic plants, a fish tank full of fish that looked permanently unconvinced. Evan signed us in while Gary pretended not to know where the cardiology wing was. His hand brushed mine when we stepped into the elevator. An accident we both let be an accident. In the waiting room, a toddler orchestrated a tiny coup with stacking cups. A television murmured about storms in places with better skylines. I filled out the contact form because Gary hates forms, and he let me, which felt like more trust than it should. Evan leaned his shoulder into mine without looking, a silent bracket. Nurses called names like they were opening envelopes. Gary's turned ours into air. "Family can come," the nurse said, with the authority of someone who'd seen every configuration love comes in. Evan and I stood at the same time. We didn't check who led. Blood pressure cuff, the ritual squeeze. Gary aimed for humor. "Do I get a lollipop if I ace it?" But the EKG settled him. Electrodes like small moons, paper spooling out with its serrated whisper. The nurse's face learned not to say anything while it was still learning what to say. "Yellow light," I breathed, and Gary glanced at me with a thanks I felt in my ribs. Dr. Park arrived. Efficient warmth, the kind of person who has saved lives before lunch. She clicked her pen. "You've been putting off the follow-up," she said to Gary, not unkindly. "Tell me what made you finally come." "My kid," Gary said, tilting his head at Evan. "And—" he looked at me, then didn't look away. "My people." The results were a puzzle with pieces that fit, but made a picture we didn't want. "Paroxysmal atrial fibrillation," Dr. Park said, drawing the rhythm on the paper with her pen. "Not constant, but frequent enough to matter. We'll start medication. Schedule an echocardiogram and a stress test. Maybe an ablation if it keeps misbehaving. No heroics, Mr. Patel. Hydrate. Less caffeine. More honesty about symptoms." "Healthy tyranny," Evan muttered, relief and worry tangled in the same thread. Gary cleared his throat. "I'm sorry I made you both drag me here. Drag is dramatic," I said, surprised to hear a steady in my voice. "Ask. You asked. We came." On the sidewalk, the air bit cheeks in clean ways. Evan's phone buzzed. He stepped aside, grinning at the screen like it told a joke only he got. "Armand," he mouthed. We let him have the moment. A bus hissed past. A cyclist cursed at a cab, in the polite way people curse when they know children are watching. Gary put his hands in his pockets like they might need somewhere to hide. "I kept pretending the flutter was weather," he said, "like I could wait it out." "I need you to outlast pretending," I said, a little too quickly. He looked at me then, really looked. "Me too." We started across the street with the light, then a car ran the red late. Gary tugged me back, hard, my shoulders singing with surprise. His face went gray for a beat, the kind of tired that starts inside a heartbeat, not a day. We stood very still together until the world remembered to move. "Yellow light," he said. It worked like a handrail. Back at the stoop, Evan rejoined, flushed and wind-chapped. "He got the offer," he said, breathless. "He's coming." I'm not moving tomorrow, relax. But, spring. I think I'll be home. Home rearranged itself in my chest to make more room. Gary exhaled a sound that was not quite a laugh. Then we have time to practice being brave in boring ways. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to make the moment true. He reached for my hand and stopped a half-inch away, not out of fear, but because promises have edges you learn by tracing. I closed the distance with 2 fingers. Enough. My phone rang before we could open the door. Unknown number, clinic prefix. I answered on speaker. Mr. Patel. Dr. Park's voice, efficient even across cellular space. We had a cancellation. Echo and stress test tomorrow, first slot. If anything looks concerning, we can walk you straight into the EP consult. Gary looked at me. Evan looked at both of us. We'll be there, Gary said. His voice didn't shake. Good, Dr. Park said. Tonight, water, rest, no overthinking. Healthy tyranny, Evan whispered again, and we let the joke hold us up. Tomorrow had just gotten closer. On the treadmill, Gary's heart jittered into code, monitors translating fear into beeps. Evan squeezed my shoulder. I said yellow light and watched him breathe back toward himself. When Dr. Park said plan instead of emergency, I understood. What he'd done to me night, he invited me, changed my rhythm. They pasted electrodes onto Gary like constellations and told him to walk. He did, stubborn, wry, sweat beading at his temples as the treadmill angled up. The nurse kept time. Evan counted under his breath, a new superstition. I watched the green line, brittle as a lie, try to behave. Midway, the line lost its manners. The beeps stuttered, fast, then faster. Gary's face went pale in the way that erases jokes. Yellow, I said, quick but careful, like handing him a railing. He nodded. The nurse touched buttons. The treadmill slowed. The storm inside the monitor remembered what coast to aim for. I'm here, I heard myself say, and meant it in every tense, past, present, possible. They wheeled the echo in, gel cool beneath the wand. On the black and gray screen, his heart appeared as a busy, defiant animal. Whoosh, whoosh. A door opening and closing with a mind of its own. I listened to it the way you listen to rain when you're safe indoors. Dr. Park was brisk good, the best kind. No emergency, she said at last, and all 3 of us let go of the air we'd been hoarding. We'll start a beta blocker and a DOAC, schedule the EP consult. You can live a long, opinionated life with this, Mr. Patel, if you don't. Pretend you're invincible. Healthy tyranny, Evan said, smiling with the relief that makes you rethink everything. Precisely. Dr. Park looked between us. You 2 are his people? I opened my mouth, closed it, then let the truest thing out. Yes. Gary reached for the clipboard where they'd left emergency contact lines empty. He wrote Evan in neat block letters. Then, after a breath, Liam underneath, like adding a shelf and trusting it to hold. Something in my chest reorganized, quietly, around the shape of my name. We left with a packet of instructions and the kind of fatigue that requires soup, not speeches. On the sidewalk, the cold bit clean. Gary's smile was a worn coin. He turned it over, then spent it on us. Thank you, he said, for making me go, for staying. That's the deal, Evan said, bumping his shoulder into mine like a comma. Also, Armand wants to FaceTime later to say hi and to threaten both of you with kale. Healthy tyranny squared, I said, and it made Gary laugh for real. Back. At the apartment, the radiator resumed its conversation with the pipes. Gary took his first pill with a glass of water like a vow. Evan's phone trilled. He ducked into the hall, grinning so wide we could taste it. When he came back, he had his keys in hand. Bagel run, he announced. Daylight audit. You, too. Don't be weird. Or do. Just be honest. He left and took the door's momentum with him. The apartment landed in a soft, complicated quiet. Gary turned the record to Coltrane and let the saxophone climb a staircase it wasn't sure would. Hold. We stood like we were deciding whether to walk across a stream on stones that looked like they might wobble. I invited you to eat dinner and fix a shelf, he said finally, wry. And instead I made you an accomplice to my medical compliance. I stepped closer. You did this, I said, and the words came out steady. You gave me a key. You gave us a language. You told me the truth before you asked for anything. You didn't make me small to fit your life. You made room. He swallowed, eyes bright at the edges. I want to keep doing that. Green, I said, surprised by how right the word felt. If you want? He did. He crossed that last half step and kissed me the way you approach a sleeping animal. Gentle, never assuming it owes you trust. It was daylight, and it was careful, and it was more than enough. My hands found the edges of him that fear had tried to blur. The kiss tasted like winter and relief. We broke apart to breathe, to laugh, to verify the room was still here. It was. Evan, saint of rules, texted from the corner deli, green light, dough everything. Tyranny continues. We went to the study and, without discussing it, finished the shelf. Wood, screws, the satisfying torque when something fits. We set the red-sealed envelope there, a small monument to beginnings. I added the brass key beside it, not because I'd stopped carrying it, but to remind myself what it opened. When Evan came back, he clocked the shift in the room like weather. He smirked, then softened, then handed us bagels like medals. Daylight achieved, he declared. Kale coming at dinner. Armon at 7. Life, per my tyrannical agenda, continues. Gary pressed his palm to the middle of his chest, where all our nerves had been listening. Still here, he said, and that was the answer to all the questions I hadn't known how to ask. My best friend's father didn't ruin me when he invited me to his apartment. He did this. Taught me a language for fear and desire, put my name where contact goes, and changed the rhythm of a life into something that sounded like home.